What's up, bro?
Aye.
There's not a rule that you have to use the 3 subs.
He's the best left back.
1,000 to 1 now the odds they're giving us. A lot of them are in for a surprise. We've got a mighty team that no one else has seen. The stars of Canada are on the rise. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. Dale Mitchell has touches like no one else has got. In Mexico we'll show them how to play. And striker George Pecos has a rifle for a shot. And Tino Lantieri saves the day. Bobby Landuzzi and Chris Wilson will be there. Their years of dedication have come through. Their courage and their pride with their teammates they have shared. Oh Canada, we'll share it now with you. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. To Mexico we go with an optimistic heart. There is nothing that we cannot do. Reagan, Gray, and Samuel, Bridge, and Sweeney are just parts of a mighty team that proudly plays for you. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you.
All right, and hello everybody. Boy, that song just gets you fired up, doesn't it? It's growing on me. It's growing on me. We've heard it like 6-7 times, and it continues to grow on me. But hello everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Third Sub Pregame live show presented by Macy Sports. It's a special edition once again, Canada Men's National Team Gold Cup edition. I'm your co-host, Alexander Gungaruzik, joined as always by Samuel Rowan. Sam, before we dive into the biggest game we've certainly covered this year in terms of Canada, probably in terms of anything we've covered, Canada versus US, sold-out crowd, Kansas, chance to top the group at the Gold Cup. How are you doing this weekend after we talked last night? You know, obviously for those Whitecaps faithful out there, we had a pregame live show there. The Whitecaps broke a streak. Can Canada keep up a streak of their own now? But before we dive in all that, Sam, how's it going?
Super excited for this one. Obviously, you know, it's not the high stakes of an elimination matchup, but still, you know, two really strong lineups. I think about as good as you could have expected given the scenario surrounding this match, and a lot to look forward to. There's always a bit of craziness and a bit of heightened media coverage, especially when the U.S. men's national team is involved. It's also great we get to, one way or another, most people that want to see this match are going to get to see it, whether it's on Fox, whether it's on One Soccer, whether it's on YouTube. There's ways to watch this match, even if you don't have that One Soccer subscription. So that's awesome to see. You want to just get more people involved, get more people interested in the men's national team. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity today to, you know, show off what these two teams have and show how far Canada's come potentially. It's been a while since we've seen that kind of, you know, it's not full best on best, but it has a visibility. Playing the U.S. is different, really. I think, you know, even for a lot of Canadians, despite Mexico being the team of bigger stature, playing the U.S., it's a rivalry that you're familiar with from other sports. And, you know, that kind of steam behind it can carry over. And so I'm excited for this one. I'm rocking, you know, some red and white just in solidarity and looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, so this is big, I think, for Canada. I mean, this is your rival. I mean, maybe U.S. in their heads, they're still chasing Mexico. I mean, personally, come on, as much as the U.S., you know, they'll say publicly that Mexico is their biggest rival. And maybe from a playing perspective, it certainly is. Canada hasn't done enough to threaten. It's hard to be a rivalry, for example, and they didn't win for a 34-year span. But hey, you know, Canada's starting to be good again. So A, they can at least start to threaten the idea of it's a rivalry, but just even B, like, politically, the border, this whole, okay, the US is mean, Canada is nice, all sorts of, sociological factors. This is a rivalry. This is one of the bigger rivalries, at least in CONCACAF. So it's nice to see it reignited a bit. Obviously, playing a lot of games, it helps. There was a period where Canada and the US didn't play that all that often. Now they've played each other. This is the third time since 2019. There's going to be, they could play a fourth time this Gold Cup. There's a guaranteed 2 in the next year with the Octo. Who knows? Maybe they'll schedule some friendlies. Maybe they'll schedule some more games. So this rivalry, it feels like it's starting to come back. And no better way for this game to be a proof of that. 19,000 fans. Obviously, you're missing some of the big guns. And boy, I can't wait for, for example, a sold out Nashville, a sold out Toronto or Vancouver in the Octo with Davies, David, Pulisic, McKennie, Adams. All these players, I feel like we're owed something like that. Like that would just be magnificent. But even this game, I mean, Kyle Larin, co-leading or second leading goal scorer in the Turkish Super League. You got Daryl DK, who was lighting things on fire over in Orlando. There's some big players on both teams. I won't go through all of them. And, even if it's maybe not an A team for either team, but there's certainly guys we'll see in the fall. So it's nice to have a big game with high stakes, with good players in front of a sold out crowd. I mean, we're missing that, especially for Canada. The World Cup quest so far to date was, okay, you play at a high school field in Florida twice. You have to travel, you play in Chicago, you play in Orlando, both in front of empty fans. You play in Orlando again. You play in Haiti in front of an empty crowd. This is their first real test in front of a full crowd. It's not just a smattering of players on the bench or fans. So it's just nice to have all these stakes on the line tonight.
I'm glad that you pointed out, what lies ahead and the fact that these teams are going to match up a couple times in the Octo, because I think that provides more value and more feeling behind this match as well. Like it's not just an isolated one-off and then, okay, great, we'll see you again in a couple of years. No, these teams are going to match up, and a decent amount of these players are going to be back for those Octo matchups. And, what kind of feeling you leave this match with, no matter what it means for the Gold Cup itself, some of that's going to carry over to the fall. And so I'm sure John Herdman's talked about that. I'm sure Greg Berhalter's talked about that as well. There's a feeling of momentum that, can maybe be gained or lost today as well. And that's exciting. Do you want to dive into the lineups? We've got both.
I was going to say, let's just dive
we've got both sides of it. So let's take a look. Alex, I'll kick it to you to start us off.
Well, we'll start with Canada. I am a bit surprised here. I think, my projected lineups have been doing pretty well over the last few weeks. It's probably one of the one where, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't have, I think 3 or 4 from my projected lineup. But otherwise, it's a strong lineup. This is a good thing. I mean, Max Crepeau in goal, back 3 of Steven Vittoria in the middle, Kamal Miller on the left, Alistair Johnson on the right. Wing backs, Richie Laray on the right, Tajon Buchanan on the left. Midfield duo of Samuel Piet, Liam Fraser. It's a good holding mid duo. Junior Hoylett's kind of going to roam as the number 10. I feel Ayo Akinola, Kyle Larin up top. 3-5-2 also could be a 3-4-3, really depending on Junior Hoylett's perspective. A couple time bombs to watch out for. Liam Fraser's on a yellow card. Steven Vittoria's on a yellow card. Alistair Johnson's on a yellow card. I did not expect the latter two to start. I did expect Fraser to start, obviously, because no Eustachio was suspension. Mark Anthony Kay is on a yellow. They can't afford to lose him. So I didn't expect them to start. But, this is a good lineup. I think this is about your first choice back 3 at the moment, maybe other than throwing a Daniil Henry in there. So it's defensively, you're going to need that solidity. I think Canada's certainly learning from that mistake from their last time they played the U.S., where they experimented with the back 4, played Alphonso Davies at left back, in a flat back 4, and it wasn't maybe the right move. Well, this time they're sticking with what's worked for them in recent games. Even going back to the best version of the back 3 we've seen, it's pretty much been when Johnston's been in there. I think Kamal Miller is a very adequate, if not, upgrade on a guy like Scott Candy. I'd say it's pretty close between them, and obviously Steven Vittoria. But if you're Canada, I'm curious for me. I mean, we'll talk about him later, so I won't talk about him too much. But a guy like Kyle Larin up front is huge to have on this team. He's been scoring goals for fun. I'm excited to see him. Junior Hoylett's quietly been one of Canada's best offensive players the last few years. We haven't really been talking about that, so good to see him. If not, let's hope the Tajon Buchanan show continues, because there are scouts watching him, and no better way to give yourself a good performance in front of an audience than tonight.
Yeah, as always, you broke that down pretty thoroughly. I have a lot of confidence in the back 3. I think that's pretty much as good as it gets for Canada right now. Certainly some eyes on that midfield through, yellow card, through precautionary reasons. Piet's played really well for Montreal this year. I think I don't want to say a breakout year, but it feels like his game has kind of taken a bit of a step. And then, Fraser, you wonder how much progression there is through those two guys. You don't necessarily get the same that you might get out of a K, out of a Eustachio. I don't know if Mark-Anthony K has really had the best tournament so far.
Not by his standard.
Even beyond that Martinique moment, like if we extract that from the equation, still there've been some patchy moments for him. So hopefully this kind of helps him reset for the elimination rounds. Then up front, I'm interested. Well, first of all, you mentioned Hoylett, and is he going to slot as a 10? Is he going to play in a wide area? But then you've got like two striker partnerships, striker matchups. You got DK and Zardes at the other end, and you've got Akinola and Laren. And for both of those, I wonder how the interaction is going to work. Who occupies which spaces? How do they play with each other? That's something to watch at both ends of the pitch as we see the USA lineup here. Sam Vines had a really good tournament so far. Busio's sort of grown into it. Didn't have a great kind of start, but has kind of warmed up as things gone on. Walker Zimmerman, obviously MLS fans pretty familiar with what he can do at the back. And then looking through the midfield, you got Leggett, you got Acosta, and similar shapes for both these teams. There's obviously little wrinkles within it where things might go differently, but overall, I don't know, Alex, I think I would give the strength in the midfield probably to the US, the strength at center back, pretty even on maybe a little bit to Canada, and then up front, I think that's probably pretty even as well. So these two teams, matched up, and even if we go to goalkeeper, because I might as well evaluate all four, I think that's pretty even as well. Like this is fine margins. I think we're gonna have a very competitive matchup. Obviously, little things in the match can tilt it either way, but I like the way these two teams set up. It's going to be, kind of just let the boys play and see who's the better team on the day.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, Matt Turner, for me, I think US right now has a slight edge. I mean, Max Crepeau was fantastic last game. Matt Turner has been, even better. I mean, he's pretty much been, as the numbers have said, one of the top goalkeeper in all of North America, really, the last 2-3 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how he copes this test. I thought he looked really good against Martinique because the U.S. defense did not look good against Martinique. Yes, they won 6-1, but I watched Turner made at least 3 or 4 or 5 alarm saves that could have made the game a lot more interesting than it ultimately was. So he's going to be one to watch in the U.S. goal. But again, that's Max Crepeau also saved Canada against Haiti, so it could end up being a goalkeeping duel. It's going to be interesting. I think Canada's defense is a lot better than they showed against Haiti. I think we've seen that from Johnston, Kamal Miller with Montreal, and obviously Victoria. So I think I get the edge there. I think the U.S. with Zimmerman, Sands, and Robinson, there's 3 good pieces, but they haven't seemed to gel together yet. I mean, Sands, for example, has been excellent on the ball. Every time I've watched him, he's really good ball playing center back. Naturally, he is a number 6, but have we seen enough defensively from him? There's still work to be done. So for Canada, that does bode well because Canada, as we tend to know, scores goals and they tend to generate a lot of chances. So I think they'll have a fair few of them today. But the U.S. in the midfield, for example, they have a clear edge. I mean, Liam Fraser, Samuel Piet, it's a good duo, but that's more of a defensive stopper. You look at Gianluca Busio, he's been excellent in his progression as a number 6 as he's kind of transitioned to that role. Sebastian Leggett, always a very tidy player. There's good options for them in midfield. I mean, yes, even without an Eric Williamson, I thought he could have been I thought he was excellent against Martinique. I think he could be a good number 8 option to have. They're still very, very strong in midfield. But and then it's really going to come down to the forwards. Can Laren, Hoylett, Akinola break through that so far leaky looking U.S. defense on one end, and at the other end, what version of Canada's defense do we see? Do we see the ones from Haiti, Suriname, where yes, you can question the qualities of Haiti and Suriname. They're good offensive teams. I mean, just looking even at Suriname this tournament, they've given Jamaica and Costa Rica a run for their money. Finishing certainly was an issue, but they attack. Haiti as well, as we know, they attack. Yet Canada in June, at least, not so far in the Gold Cup, they've looked a little looser, but in June they looked very good defensively. Which version of Canada we're going to see? Because Zardes and DK wild cards. I mean, Zardes, you never know what version of Zardes you're going to get. He's certainly a guy that when he's getting service, he's in form. Watch out. But DK for me is the one to watch because this guy in recent games, he's starting to create his own service. He's starting to look like a striker that can create by himself, and that's a worry if you're Canada, because I feel like a guy like Daniil Henry would match up great against Daryl DK. Knowing Henry, he relishes those kinds of physical matchups against a proper number 9. A 34-year-old Vittoria who's played 3 games in 8 days, plus he's on a yellow, so he could be suspended with the yellow. How is he going to hold up? How is Alistair Johnson, who's more of a slender, he's a small right back as is, and he's playing center back. I mean, he's not that small. I think he's 5'11", but still on the smaller side, especially when you're facing a guy of DK's stature. How is he going to cope? And then obviously, I think Kamal Miller should match up pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see that DK versus, does DK try to, target a guy like Johnston at the back post to try to get up there and win headers or try to bully him? Or does he go after Vittoria? Does Miller, end up playing centrally, following him around? There's a lot of tactical matchups, but overall, I think the U.S. should control the midfield. Canada will try to hit them in the counter, and the game will be decided on which team, how loose and fast they play it on the defensive end, and which strikers show up to play and finish their chances that they will certainly get. I do feel like there will be chances for both sides.
Yeah, it was a little bit concerning to see the way that Canada played in the first half of that Haiti match. It was the first time where they looked a little loose out of the back. They looked a little uncomfortable and just kind of, either turning it over or not getting in great position defensively, or just, not the same level of calmness and organization we'd come to expect from previous matches. And credit to Haiti for doing a really good job against both of these teams, just creating chaos and finding a way, despite their very limited pool of players, to stick in the matches for as long as they did. So I think that might end up being the difference today. Which group of center backs, which back 3 is able to show their best football and not fall into those traps that they have at times throughout this tournament. But Alex, do we want to talk a little bit about, we dove into the match, but what does this mean? It's kind of important to lay that out, because we're in this group format where, a win matters, but it doesn't matter all the way. And so teams are kind of being strategic and trying to figure out what the best scenario is for them.
Yeah, I mean, for Canada, it's really unfortunate that CONCACAF's strange. I mean, as Group B, you'd expect Canada to play last today, but they unfortunately have to wait for Mexico, El Salvador. If anything, I think that's almost a good thing, so they don't have to really worry about, if we lose and we avoid Mexico, or if we win and we avoid Mexico. All they have to do is just top the group. Tends to do you well in the long term if you win your group, as we'll know, say from the Canadian U23 Olympic qualifiers, for example. They didn't top the group. They had to face Mexico. We all know how that went. So obviously today, thanks to goal difference, actually not even goal difference, goals for, because the goal difference was tied, Canada does have the edge over the U.S., meaning that with a draw or a win, they go through as the first place team. If the U.S. wins, obviously they go through. Both teams are through, so there's no, if Martinique or Haiti or this or that. No, it's Canada or U.S. are the 2 teams through. But they play whoever's in Group C for the knockout, in the knockout rounds. That's guaranteed to be Jamaica or Costa Rica. I mean, on one hand, feel bad for Suriname. I thought they looked good in the tournament, but Costa Rica pulled out some magic at the end. But based on who wins tomorrow, Jamaica, Costa Rica, based on who wins today, we'll find out that matchup. But, either way, Jamaica, Costa Rica, 2 very even teams. You don't care about that if you're Canada, U.S. But there's obviously the other elephant in the room, Mexico. They're in a group with El Salvador. If you had to pick between, say, a Mexico and El Salvador, in the semifinal, or I guess in the other case, it would be Qatar, Honduras, or Panama, looking likely to be Honduras and Qatar. You probably want to take your chances with Honduras, Qatar, or El Salvador, whoever that ends up being. If you're Canada, winning the group likely avoids it, because if Canada and Mexico both win the group, that means no Canada-Mexico until the final. But if you finish second and Mexico finishes first, you play them in the semifinal. You want to avoid Mexico to the end. The bigger the stakes, the better chance you have at toppling them if there's nerves or something of that liking. So for Canada, winning the group has to be a priority. And I think their lineup tonight reflects that.
Yeah, I mean, you can make it incredibly complicated, or you can make it easy, right? You go out, win the match, go out, secure first place in the group. That's mission number 1. Now, I wonder, if you get into the 80th minute of this match and it's tied 1-1, how aggressively does the U.S. go after that win and go after the first spot?
I think they want to avoid Mexico at all costs until the final.
So I love that scenario where, a draw means two very different things for two teams, right? For Canada, that would be perfectly acceptable. It does the same thing as a win for them. But for the U.S., they know exactly what they like. Really, a draw does nothing for them. So that would be very interesting if we get down to the late stages and, there's some tournament chaos that ensues because of the various, different scenarios at play. But that's a good breakdown of kind of what's at stake today. It's not that winner takes all elimination match, but there's certainly a prize up for grabs beyond just the bragging rights and the confidence. The first place would be very valuable, and I think you did a really good job laying that out, although there are still some matches to play, so nothing is guaranteed. This is CONCACAF. This is the Gold Cup. There have been surprise results already, right? So you never know.
Well, actually, surprisingly, no. I had more upsets. At least for example, I had Suriname doing better than they did. They got swept in their first two games. They're out. So there's already really 4 teams guaranteed from the two groups, 4 teams eliminated. It's really just Group A and Group D where there were draws. Mexico drew Trinidad and Tobago, so they're technically not through. So if El Salvador wins and Trinidad and Tobago wins, Mexico could go out. So that could manifest that. But knowing CONCACAF, Mexico is inevitable. They're like Thanos. They will snap their fingers at any minute and they will take care of the job. So I'm not worried about them. But it's really that Group D for me. Like Panama's look so much better than I expected them to. They were fantastic last night despite their loss. They went down early 1-0 Honduras in a very pro-Honduras crowd. They came back, went up 2-1. Honduras scored 2 worldies. Tough bounce for Panama after a very good 3-3 draw against a solid Qatar team. Qatar is really good. I for those who don't know Qatar, you don't want to play Qatar right now. They're just a good team. And then you've got Honduras, who are looking also very good, but they're without Albert Elise for the rest of the tournament as he picked up an injury last night. Maybe you'd like to face a Honduras right now, but there are a lot of permutations. We could go into them for days, but I guess shifting otherwise, where should we go for here? Should we maybe, we talked about well, there you go. We'll start with the so far so good for Canada, obviously. Lots of positives to extract so far from their first few games. Kyle Larin leads Gold Cup in scoring with 3 goals, 1 from the penalty spot. He scored 8. Canada scored 8 goals total, 2 goals against. Very nice record, especially offensively. Defensively, maybe those 2 they'd probably like to have back, but goals were going to happen. Max Crepa was huge last game. They're certainly in good form heading into this game, but kind of shifting gears to a point of emphasis, you mentioned defense for Canada. They need a draw today. Defending is going to come into play. Let's look at their defensive options.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we laid out kind of the defensive battle already in the back 3, but maybe let's talk a little bit about the wide options. We haven't really mentioned too much about Richie Larea and Tejan Buchanan, and I think that if Canada's going to go out and have a banner match and take home a big victory, then those wide guys are going to play a big role. I think, Larea has a lot to show still. He hasn't really maybe popped off at this tournament the way he has in other competitions for Canada. And then Buchanan obviously got off to a really hot start and, he's got a lot of eyes on him. So that I think could be a key. And as much as I do like Sam Vines, I think that Canada does have the potential edge in that matchup. So as I said, I think the back 3, that's about as good of a back 3 as you can trot out right now. But those fullback options, that could be an X factor for Canada.
Yeah, no, I think for sure they've started to build up a good solid cache of depth options. I certainly think the fact that you've got Larea and Buchanan doing so well at wingback when you still got a guy like Christian Gutierrez who's in the squad, but obviously remaining with the Whitecaps as they desperately need any sort of warm bodies at left back. And then you go down the list. I mean, Sam Adekugbe just made a big move to Turkey. He's going to be huge for the Octo. Zachary Brogiar has looked excellent offensively this year. We're forgetting about a guy like Juan Cordova who's kind of fallen off the map, but he's still doing good things for Huachipato down in Chile. There's a lot of options at Canada, for Canada at fullback. Their fullback depth is amazing. We've reveled about this many times. it's a far cry from the days of 2015 or the 2018 World Cup cycle. I remember going to BC Place, watch Canada take on the likes of El Salvador, Mexico, and they were trotting out guys like Nick Ledgerwood and Daniel Henry as pure fullbacks, and it was an adventure, to say. So to have all this depth is it continues to be a game changer. Obviously, Alphonso Davies as a wingback. How could I go without mentioning his obvious talent? Is probably the, if not one of the top 5 to 10 wingbacks in the world right now, and they have that at their disposal. But it's really just for Canada, it's been the center backs, and you know what? They're slowly building up depth at center back. It's been nice to see. Obviously, mainstays like Vittoria, Henry have done the job for Canada as of late, but Scott Kennedy's emergence, what a story that was in June. So it's too bad he's not here. Alistair Johnston going from right back to center back and doing a job against some good teams. Kamal Miller this year. Derek Cornelius is moving to Greece, and he's still there. Mandrakar James could come out of the woods at some point again. Frank Stirring, a new commit. If Ricardo Ferreira finds a club, he could be an option. Those are just, some of those guys. They're still youngsters. Because we have to remember it's a position where youngsters don't tend to break through for a while. So I'm just, thinking a guy like Thomas Mergigur is certainly on the close to being something. Obviously, Amir Didic and Dominic Zator, a little older, both options. Gianfranco Faccineri, Julian Dunn in MLS. I could go on. And heck, even if I dare say that name, Fikayo Tomori, if England doesn't touch him until November 2022, he could be on the radar. So it's good for Canada to build up their depth. Now they have to A, improve their level that they're playing at, improve their cohesion together, and B, get tests. And I mean, as we'll touch on after this, they have 2 very good tests tonight to kind of start off with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're bringing up all those youngsters on the the defensive core for Canada is kind of, you got those veterans in Victoria and Henry, but then you've got a big crop of younger guys. Even someone like Kamal Miller, who's maybe not on the youngest end, but he's still got a lot of room to improve. And if they're going to go forward with this back 3, back 5 kind of shape, you're getting these guys integrated early on and kind of getting them stuck into that. But I also want to talk about the US's approach to this tournament. And they've gone not full youth movement, but kind of like Canada. There's a lot of youngsters on the roster. Someone like Gianluca Busio, who we've heard a lot about. He's been a youngster to watch for a number of years now, and kind of we're seeing some of these young players emerge at the tournament. So I'm interested to see how the young guys handle a bigger outing like today. You see Busio 19, Bello 19, Sands 21, DK 22. It's not a host of 17-year-olds, but at the same time, these are international football is a bit of a different beast. We saw that at the highest stakes, highest stage in the Euros. Young guys put in pressure moments. It's not going to be anything like that tonight. But Busio is a guy that I'm definitely watching out for because full crowd against a bigger team like Canada. It's not U.S. Mexico just yet, but very interested to see how they handle it. And yeah, then you got Zardes and Leggett, a little bit on the older end, but still on the right side of 30. So pretty young U.S. squad, youngest U.S. squad we've seen in a long time. And it's been fun to watch so far, and creates a little bit of chaos and some moments. Maybe a more veteran team sees out a 3-0 against Haiti instead of a tighter 1-0, but that's kind of part of the growing and learning process.
Well, we have to remember Busio plays his club football in front of a sold-out Children's Mercy crowd in Canada.
Yeah,
so
comfortable environment. That's nice.
He'll be used to that. But yeah, it's interesting that kind of the split between some of these players. I mean, I think, looking at a guy like Gianluca Busio, what he can do as the number 6, he's looked like a very solid player. In midfield as a number 10. Obviously, if you've watched the Whitecaps, you've seen a lot of good Busio moments against the Whitecaps. George Bello, very intriguing left back, obviously not starting today, but to see the veteran presence, guy like Brad Guzan sticking around, Johnson, Zardes, Leggett. It's interesting to see the U.S. how they've kind of found this mix of youth and older guys, and I feel like it's kind of Canada's in a similar position. You look at their squad, you got some older guys, Vittoria 34. I mean, obviously Borjan's not here, but he's up there in age. Hutchinson, Arfield, they left a lot of the older guys at home compared to usual, but then you contrast that with some of these youngsters. Akinola, 2000 born, Patton, Harry Patton on the bench. He's just 23, making his Canada debut. Buchanan, 22, recently made his debut. Alistair Johnston, 22, recently made his debut. it's interesting to see how both teams have transitioned. It was also interesting to hear Greg Berhalter yesterday, the U.S. coach, say that in his eyes, Canada and the U.S. are at very similar crossroads right now. They're two younger groups that are, maybe that are coming up right now, and they're in a similar transitional phase where they're trying to grow and join some of the veterans of CONCACAF that have been there, done that for so long. And I thought that was pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, shout out to Steven there, who I think brings up a good question. This Canada group has definitely had, despite the couple absences, they've had more time, more opportunity to sort of, get to know each other, several camps. And I think that's a possible advantage for Canada. Are they a little more drilled up? And we also saw, the U.S. kind of tweaking their formations, tweaking their tactics already this tournament. There's been some pretty decent squad rotation. So I think that's a possible advantage, but I'm sure, Berhalter's done everything to get these guys ready to go. I wanted to shout out something that I just saw on Twitter, which is one of our good friends, Tristan Demoula. A fun fact about John Herdman, Canada only needs a draw today to get this thing across the finish line for a first place finish in the group. But John Herdman has never had a draw as the Canadian men's national team head coach. 20 wins, 4 losses, no draws. So I think that's very interesting.
The record.
Again,
only 4 losses.
Again, if we get to that 1-1 80th minute, we know what the U.S. will be after, and Canada's never secured a draw under Herdman. So I think that just makes it even more interesting. I had to shout that out.
Yeah, no, I think quite the record from Herdman there as Canada head coach. I mean, obviously it's helped that he's, the argument that he's played a lot of minnows. It's certainly true, but to see them, especially recent years, or at least this year, pull out wins against Haiti, Suriname, teams they might have struggled with before, heck, even Bermuda in the start of World Cup qualifiers, that you win over the U.S. There are a lot of good wins in there too. So it's not like there have been any bad wins. That's just so interesting that he's never drawn a game. But before we go to our favorite part of the show, predictions, should we quickly touch upon, I guess, is there anything else that you'd want to touch upon, Sam, before we move over? Or are we almost ready for predictions? Because I'm being careful, because last time I mistakenly ended the show right in the second minute of the game, and I'll try to avoid that today. But anything we missed before we dive over into predictions?
I don't think anything we missed. I guess the one thing I want to shout out is, what do we expect the reception to be like for Ayo Akinola? This is it's not often. I certainly can't think of a moment where a player's gone from the U.S. national team camp to Canada. Obviously,
it's usually the other way around.
It's usually the other way around. I can think of, some scenarios on the women's side where it's gone the other way around. What's his reception going to be like? U.S. men's national team's fans can be sensitive, can be hardcore. How do we feel? Like, is he going to rise up to that challenge? Is it going to be difficult for him this afternoon? What do you think, Alex?
I think it's going to be moderate. I think, I don't know. I guess it depends. Maybe I'll say moderate.
Like, does he get booed when he's on the ball?
Maybe the first few times. I don't know how long they'll keep it up. Like, I don't know if it's hard to say it's a question of genuine hate, because it's not as if he led the U.S. on, or, he's not really a Canadian or something. He grew up in Canada for a long time. So, and he plays on a Canadian team. He's accepted call-ups this year. He hasn't really, he did accept that U.S. call-up last year. So I wonder, the one thing in his favor is that it was a January or December camp. So not just the hardcores were watching. So it'll probably be just the hardcores that would boo him. But it's certainly not something transcending where it feels like, oh, this is a big deal. The player led them on, or this or that. It kind of, for example, I feel like if Marcelo Flores committed to Canada, he would, like, if he played a game at the Azteca, he'd get stuff thrown at him. It would be a big deal. So I can't say it for Akinola he'd get necessarily the worst reception, but it certainly was, let's say it'll be an unkind one. That's for sure.
All right, that's fair. And yeah, shout out to Mitch in the comments saying this is for Teal Bunbury. That's a good shout. Wouldn't have been the first guy that I'd think of. Teal's not necessarily top of mind, but that's a good one. Is it time to bring Ben on? Time to do predictions?
Yeah, let's do that. But for one last dual national shout out for sticking with Canada. And had he maybe been his nationality been more obvious, I feel like this one could have been fun. Jonathan David was also born in Brooklyn. I would have loved to. Obviously, he was always with Canada all the way through his youth levels. But imagine how intense a similar Akinola story would have been if Jonathan David was the prize. So shout out to
Yeah,
Jonathan
that'd be a
David
big
for
buzz.
committing to Canada. That's just want to shout that out. But let's bring on producer Ben to do predictions. Obviously, we tend to do this part before the show. So if anyone does want to join us in the comments, feel free as always. I think we at least Sam and I were just the two last show. We slept through. We both had Canada wins. I think I had a 4-0 or 3-0 Canada win. You had a 5-1, if I'm not mistaken. We kind of averaged out between the two scores. Not bad. I'm also going to shout out my wacky prediction. I did say Steven Eustáquio. Apparently, I was told I said Steven Eustáquio is going to pick up a Jose Mourinho intentional yellow card. He did.
You were on top of that in our pre-match coverage. We nailed that pretty well, I think.
A rare win in the wacky predictions department. So we'll have to bring that out again today. But Ben, how's it going? And you know what? We'll let you lead off with the prediction today. We'll let you lead off today.
It's going pretty well. I'm glad to be talking Canada soccer as well. I know last night we did the Whitecaps, and they won their first game since I think it was May 8th. But this is definitely a bit more upbeat and a bit more exciting, especially when it's Canada versus USA, not the Whitecaps fighting against all odds to claw something away from the LA Galaxy. But in terms of prediction, I just put a decent amount of money on it on Bet365, and I'm saying
money it's where his mouth is.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be tied at half. I'm hoping it's tied at half, and Canada's gonna come out as 2-1 winners.
Interesting. Sam, I'll throw to you again this time.
Ooh, this is tough. I mean, the Whitecaps predictions have been, I felt like, relatively easy, or at least my choice has been pretty clear. Most of these Canada matchups so far, I feel like I've had a good beat on it, and I don't know. It's just both Canada and the US throughout this tournament so far, the performances have been a little bit inconsistent, and it's just kind of sketching me out as to how they're going to perform against one another. You know what? I'm going to go for a bumping the slump kind of prediction. And it's not a slump, but John Herdman's going to get his first draw managing the Canadian national team. And I said 1-1 in the 80th minute throughout a lot of this stuff, but Canada's got goals in them. So I'm going to go 2-2 draw. I feel like that's where this one's headed, cagey through the first half maybe, and things kind of open up as it goes on. Maybe US, chasing the win, Canada's able to respond on the counter, something like that. But I don't have a good feel for this one, so I don't want to say I'm confident in that, but I'm just hoping for an entertaining match.
Boy, you stole my 2-2. I think.
Sorry.
I'll stick with it because I'm thinking Canada does draw. I think they do draw, but it's worth noting Canada on the road. I mean, this is one of the first times in a while where they've been the road team, and obviously it's been hit or miss in terms of them doing well on the road. I mean, for example, I'm pretty sure there's a stat that they haven't won away against the U.S., like haven't won in the U.S. against the U.S. since like 1957 or something obscene like that. So I'm going to have to stick with the draw. I think I'd like to predict a Canada win. I think they have it in their pocket, but I also think they have goals. If you're going to say 2-2, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to say a 3-3 draw where everyone, the fans go, maybe the neutrals go home happy, Canada goes home happy, US gets left wanted. I think this Canada team is shown that they're different. No better way than getting the 3-3 draw you need to in order to progress and give everyone, a typical Canadian heart attack that you tend to get when watching these national team matches. But moving around, you guys have any wacky predictions for today? I'll throw it to Sam and let Ben think for this one. If you got a wacky prediction, I'll try to think of one outside the box as well.
All right. Well, yeah, if I'm going to pick a 2-2 draw, there's some goals in it. There's maybe room for an unlikely goal scorer. And I don't know why, but I'm drawn to Samuel Piette. I think maybe he scores a goal from outside the box, something wacky, maybe just the ball sits up for him in a nice area. He's able to take a whack at it. Or maybe it's, one of those chaotic ones in and around the box. The unlikeliest of goal scorers, but you know what? He's getting a start. He's had a good season. I'm just going to take a flyer on it and see what happens.
Not the worst one, Ben. We might have lost you, Ben, if you might be on mute there.
I indeed was. My apologies. I don't know if my idea would be as wacky as Samuel Piette scoring, because I usually go with Russell Tybert scoring on our Whitecap shows, and that never happens. So I'm not too confident in Samuel Piette doing the same thing. But I'll say that one of the Canadian players who's on a potential yellow card suspension is going to pick up a yellow card. I don't think that's too far-fetched. It's a rivalry game. Blood's going to be boiling, and I think that's going to happen. It's good that Eustáquio took a Mourinho intentional yellow card at the end of the last game, so he doesn't get to do that today. But I do think Canada's going to be without somebody heading into the knockout stages.
I certainly had that idea of theme, so I'll drop a few. I think Steven Vittoria is going to get suspended. I have a bad feeling about him playing when he's on a yellow. I feel like a guy like Daryl DK is going to throw him in the spin cycle. He's going to grab his shirt. Good night. I think Io Akinola is going to score and wind up the U.S. fans. And I think, what was my last prediction? Someone's going to get a red card on either team. It's a rivalry. I think there's going to be.
I like the way your match is heading. 3-3 draw, red card, something
yellow card.
Yeah,
Akinola goal. You know what? What more could we want? So hey, I'll try to put it out there in the universe. For all I know, it's going to be a 0-0 with absolutely nothing happening. But fingers crossed, these teams can deliver the fireworks that they have. But I guess on that note, that wraps up this edition of the Third Sub Live Show. We will let everyone go. This time, to catch the start of the game, I will not make the same error. I mean, the U.S. is playing, so this time it should start late. I was very surprised to see Canada started right at 5 the other day, or 4:30, whenever it is. So let's not make the same mistake. But shout out to everyone. Of course, shout out to producer Ben, as always, and Sam. I'm your co-host, Alex Gonge-Ruzik. This was the Third Sub Live Show presented by Macy Sports. Join us this week, and dare we say, we might, if you're up early, we might do a 30 to 45 minute show for the women's Olympic soccer team. Obviously they're playing quite early in Tokyo, but we'll be up watching, so we may as well join you guys for a pregame show. But before then, we'll find you in podcast version. So thanks to everyone for joining us and listening, and we'll catch you again soon.
What's up, bro?
Aye.
There's not a rule that you have to use the 3 subs.
He's the best left back.
1,000 to 1, now the odds they're giving us. A lot of them are in for a surprise. We've got a mighty team that no one else has seen. The stars of Canada are on the rise. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. Dale Mitchell has touches like no one else has got. In Mexico we'll show them how to play. And striker George Pecos has a rifle for a shot. And Tino Lettieri saves the day. Bobby Lenarduzzi and Chris Wilson will be there. Their years of dedication have come through. Their courage and their pride with their teammates they have shared. Oh Canada will share it now with you. But who can lay down odds on the hearts of 11 men? Oh Canada, our hearts are ringing true. We've won for you before and we'll win for you again. Oh Canada, we'll proudly play for you. To Mexico we go with an optimistic heart. There is nothing that we cannot do. Reagan, Gray and Samuel, Bridge and Sweeney are just parts of a mighty team